Depressurization presentation is straightforward and simple, and it works every time to properly explain the system that you're about to present on, right? So to design the system, it gives you all the options, tons of pictures are built in to really make it easy for the homeowner to understand exactly what we're doing to fix their problem and get radon gas down as low as possible. So depressurization will be part of 99% of your presentations. Obviously, the goal with Radon Shield Pro is to talk about all the options, so that way the customer has custom solutions that work on their house and it fits their budget. But when we're presenting on no matter what the solution is, you do have this drop-down navigation at the top right corner. So please reference that if you go through the slides and you notice that a customer has a question that one of the pictures before would be good to reference, you can actually click this drop down and hop around from slide to slide inside the presentation itself for that solution. So you can play around with this, get familiar with it, get comfortable with how it works, but 99% of the time you're going to just use these arrows left and right to go forward or backwards within the presentation. I would advise against jumping around if you could avoid it. Let's not assume what the customer knows, and let's not assume what they need. Let's just show everything every time to make it straightforward for the customer. We don't miss any steps that way. We don't give any shortcuts, and we're presenting the information for them to make the best decision for their house and their situation, right? So the way I present depressurization is this is by far the most popular approach to getting radon gas down. Okay, so it's going to impact the air pressure underneath the slab. So remember how your home breathes from bottom to top? This is going to create a path of least resistance for the gas to travel to this extraction point location, and then it's going to travel through the piping to exhaust to a safe location above the roof line. Okay? So all we're doing is creating a vacuum and a bypass system to mitigate the radon gas itself. So when we're talking about the fan itself, this here is a standard slide, a standard fan slide. And really we want to talk about the durability of this fan, and that we buy Festive fans, which are widely known as the best fans in the industry for reliability and durability. Okay, they also carry the best warranty that we've come across. So when we're talking to a homeowner, we don't want to get so focused on the products themselves. Obviously, we want to focus on the reason why we're talking about fixing their home, to connect to the customer why, their emotional reason for having you there. But it's important from time to time to talk about the products themselves, right? So they want to know what they're paying for. And so when we're talking about the premium Radon fan, we're talking about how it's compression molded, it's a one-piece unit, it's UV resistant, and it's heat sealed. And the warranty on the fan is a 5-year manufacturer warranty, but later I'll show you how we make that a 10-year warranty. Okay. You'll also notice that there's a picture of a YouTube manometer. This is a great part to talk about that and how it works. A lot of customers are confused on what does the YouTube manometer do? What is the purpose of it? Well, quite frankly, it's an indicator of how air is moving through your pipe, right? So when we put that fan on, we know that the fan is working because we're pulling air through. And so we write down that initial reading, and then in future years we have something as a baseline to compare how that air is moving through that pipe, because we can see over time how that can fluctuate. This is not an indicator of your radon levels themselves, but it's an indicator that the system is on and it's doing the job of moving the air. When our crews show up to do a job, it's important to know that we're getting good communication from one side of the house to the other. And one of the best ways to do that, rather than using a smoke pencil, would be to actually do a pressure field extension test, right? So you have a micromanometer, which you can see here in this picture. It's going to indicate the negative airflow underneath the slab of concrete, right? So we do this most of the time when we install a system that looks complex, but I really leave this up to the crew as a tool that they could use in case they need it when they're designing a system or confirming a design that our salesperson has made for them. But the idea for a customer on this slide is we want to show what it is and how it works, and build value in how we approach the job compared to other companies. We want to design it correctly, want to follow protocols, But we also need to verify from time to time with an actual machine. And that's what the micromanometer does, right? So we drill a pilot hole where we feel like we're going to put an extraction point, and then we hook a shot back up to that suction point, and then we drill another hole, a 1/4 inch hole, 10 feet away, 3 feet away, as far away as we can, and usually unfinished areas. And we'll hook up the micromanometer to it and see if we get good airflow from one slab location to the other. Okay? And so that's a very important diagnostic step that we could take. My experience is we get really good at this after a while, and we can look at a house and we can design it per the protocols. And most of the time we can get those levels down without doing a pressure field extension test. However, some houses are tricky and they'll fool you, right? So rather than going back to a house because we designed it wrong and we skipped out on doing the micromanometer reading, maybe it's just best in those situations to take the 5 to 15 minutes, hook up a micromanometer, drill your holes, get a vacuum in, and see how that air is communicating from one side of the slab to another. It's also very useful if you're looking at multiple chambers with a footing that's dividing. Sometimes you could do this micromanometer reading and see if by chance that air is actually communicating from one side of that footing to the other. Most of the time it doesn't, and we need a separate extraction point. But the pressure field extension testing is another tool that's great for our installation team, and it's great for the customer. Okay, so the process is obviously moving the gas from below the concrete and exhausting it to the roof line. But the dirty work that we have to do first would be the extraction point drilling and the dig out, right? So when you're looking at the pictures here, first the crew is going to drill a hole in the concrete, and usually that's a 4 to 5 inch hole. Okay, we're going to pick the right location based on protocols to make sure we design a system to get the levels down. Sometimes we'll do that pressure field extension test. Sometimes we just know what we need to do, right? Because we've done this a long time. And so the location and the quantity is critical to make sure that we have the right number of extraction points in the right location to really pull that radon gas and maximize the performance of this system. So we want to ensure that communication underneath the slab, and to do that, we have to dig it out by hand, right? So there's not a fun way to do this. We could use an auger to break up that tough clay soil, but really the process is get some nice gloves and reach your arm down in there and start digging out. And the goal would be to do 5 to 15 gallons of dirt for every single extraction point that you're doing. So this is something that usually takes the most time on every job, but it's vital to the success and performance of the system. Okay, so another big component of the radon system and depressurization is we have to seal up all the entry points. So on this slide, we're talking with the homeowner about a sump pit that they may have, or cracks in the floor, any entry points whatsoever. We need to make sure that the customer understands that we do need to seal those up, so that way we can get maximum suction for the system. And so here in the pictures you see some caulking for crack sealing, control joints. We also have to do actual cracks in the floor, sometimes along the foundation where it meets the slab, sometimes in the walls themselves if you have a bunch of cracks in the walls and there's dirt on the outside of the wall. Another common location that we have to seal would be around any plumbing fixtures. There are times when we can see an opening in an unfinished bathroom in the basement where the plumbing lines come in. Some of those we would fill in with spray foam, but mostly we're using a urethane-based caulking to do the sealing. And then when we're looking at the sump pits, this is a picture of our premium domed lid. So the beautiful part about this lid is it comes in 2 parts with a support beam across the middle. And on one side, you can always see through the glass to see if there's water in your pit. So I do emphasize these features to the homeowner because sometimes they get worried about sealing up that pit and not being able to see if there's water in there or if their sump pump is working. But we do have that window on there, and it's very easy to remove a portion of this lid if you need to. And like always, this is a perfect opportunity to talk about, before we seal that sump pit, we want to make sure if there's a sump pump in there that it's working. And this might be a good opportunity for you to bring up to the homeowner, hey, I tested your sump pump that's in there. Before I seal up that sump pit, that opening for radon purposes, do you want me to throw another sump pump in there to replace the old one? It's a great opportunity to help add protection and prevent future water issues for that homeowner as well. Say you have a sump pit, but there's water in the bottom, but there's no pump. Okay, we have to seal it for radon. We may as well ask the question, would you like me to put a sump pump in there before I seal up the pit? Okay, very easy to talk about. It's part of the process. Make sure you're asking those questions to do right by the homeowner. And you'll notice that we do around the sump lids, we'll use silicone caulking for that. And the purpose is that's something that can be easily removed if we need to open up the lid. But for the rest of the cracks and how we clean or how we seal off clean space and crawl spaces and whatnot, we use a urethane-based caulking for those. Okay, and if we're using standard voltage fans, the electrical done right section would be your chance to talk about the electrical. If you're using low voltage fans, I'll show you what we do for that in a different presentation here on a different link. But this is a good opportunity if you subcontract out your electrician. This is where you talk about that. In my experience, there's a lot of areas around here where we are required to have a licensed electrician do the electrical. And so we do subcontract out here. This is a chance to talk about that with the homeowner. What I prefer to do is have the homeowner arrange their own electrical if needed. But we want them to be comfortable that we're doing this right. They're properly insured and they're trained and they're competent professionals. Okay, so at this point now we have our system in place. We know how many extraction points we need. We know where they're going. The customer understands the general idea of how the system works. The next step is to talk about the way the system looks. So when we're in the basement doing the inspection, one of the best questions you can do on an inspection right before you start looking at the details is to ask the customer, have you ever seen a radon system before? And this is a great question because it's going to allow you to understand where the customer is coming from, how they feel about the look and the aesthetics of the system. Because oftentimes you'll hear them say, yep, I've seen one on the outside of the house. I hate the way they look, right? So that provides you information when you're designing this to do something custom for them. So if that's the answer that they give to that question, you're probably going to want to talk about the interior aesthetic package. If they seem to not care about the way it looks, then you know that you have the green light to either put it outside or inside. So make sure you're asking that question if you're not already, right before you do your inspection, because then when you go sit down at the table and you're presenting, you have options to go over with the homeowner. And the whole purpose of going through these slides is to really design a custom solution for the homeowner, something that they feel like they're involved in. So when they see the price, they understand this is what they've chosen and what they've picked. So we're doing little trial closes along the way in the depressurization slides to really get a great idea and understanding of how this system is going to be presented from a price standpoint. And so the interior aesthetic package, we want to talk about this every time. Over half of our systems here at Radon Defense Midwest are located up in the attic space. If you're in Canada and you're watching this video, different rules apply there, right? So you could put a fan in the house inside the thermal barrier and then just simply exhaust outside. For everywhere else in the United States of America, we have to make sure that we're outside that thermal barrier and our fan location is either on the outside of the home or the exterior, or we put it up in the attic space as an interior aesthetic package. So this is a great option to increase your average dollar per sale, your average dollar per lead, but you can be creative with this and put the fan where you need to and really just find a path on your inspection and explain to the homeowner on this slide exactly where you would route the piping to get to the fan in the attic. Okay, so sometimes you could fit it in existing chases as long as you can clamp it down. There's nothing wrong with that, but most of the time we're actually going from the basement, which is usually a storage room along a garage. We're going through the rim joist into the garage, putting some fire caulking around that, and then going up the wall into the attic for the fan to be located outside that thermal barrier. Okay, and then we're going to penetrate through the roof, and all they see on this system would be the stack on the roof and the pipe in the garage. So a lot of our homeowners really like the look of this. We don't want to create a deterrent by having what they would call an ugly system on the outside of the home. So let's give them the option, and then the next slide that you're going to see is going to be what we could do on the outside. Okay, so this is called our exterior aesthetic package. Okay, and so you could see a before and after picture with the fan housing cover, and you can see the difference there. You could also see what it looks like going around a soffit here. And then the next slide is going to show you additional pictures. So we're just talking through how they like the look of the system or if they want to go inside, right? So really we're showing them all the options, without a cover, with a cover, going through the soffit, or going around the soffit. Okay, so the way that we have this priced here right out of the gate would be the exterior aesthetic package. So the cover plus the soffit penetration is exactly the same price as what we would do on an interior aesthetic package. So the best way that we want to probably approach this is we're prideful of our work. We know that putting a fan in the attic is going to look better, so we could steer them that direction if they're looking to choose between the two. But overall, we want to hear the customer, see what's important to them, talk about the noise of the system a little bit here, and then just the way it overall looks on their house. Let's listen to them and do what they want. Okay, so now we know where the system is going and where the fan is located and how the system is going to look. The next part of the conversation for the homeowner is asking questions around noise. We can't shy away from this. In our experience, when we don't talk about noise, a customer can call back and they could be upset because they feel like the fan is too loud. Okay, so talking about placement in the same conversation as talking about noise and how it's subjective is critical to ensuring you have a happy customer once the install takes place. So up in an attic, the sound shouldn't be an issue up in the attic. 99% of our systems that we put in attics actually do have a muffler that we put on there. It's not going to do anything for the mechanical noise itself, but it does absolutely impact the sound of the airflow through the system. Okay, and there's a video on the next screen that I'll play here shortly, but really it's a talking point with the customer to understand if they're a light sleeper or if they study or work in a certain area of the house. Really picking a great location where that fan is, and what that's doing is showing the customer that you're listening to their issues, you're listening and trying to address their concerns and make this system specific to their needs. Here's the video. If you need it, you can click on it, which I'll do right now. So clearly it does impact the sound of the airflow, and there's a notable difference. This is a nice way to add protection to the customer and peace of mind that the system's not going to be too loud. All right, so we have a whole system designed. We know exactly where everything's going. We know exactly how the work is done by the crew. The next thing to talk about to build value is the 10-year warranty. So many companies in our network do this slightly different. They choose from one or two options here, right? So from a warranty perspective, this is an opportunity to set ourselves apart from the competition. And so the suggestion that we have here at Radon Defense Midwest is to include the fan moisture guard as part of every system that you do, every new system that you do, and then give a 10-year warranty on parts, on labor, and on the radon levels always being below 4 picocuries per liter if they test with a third-party test or a continuous professional radon monitor. So when we come to this slide, we're presenting it in a way where it's already included to go from a 5-year warranty from the manufacturer to a 10-year warranty by our company. And the reason we feel comfortable that we could do that is by inserting a fan moisture guard on each system. Basically what happens is as we move that cool air from below the slab of concrete in the basement, and in the summertime it hits warm air, condensation is formed, and that drip is constantly going through the piping and hitting our metal fan. Well, the fan moisture guard collects that moisture and routes it around the fan to let it safely exit back into the piping that's sloped underneath the home. With the fan, you don't have to worry about that condensation creating a problem with moisture underneath your slab of concrete, because that fan is actually drying out the soil underneath the home. So this is a great way to preserve our fan, let it run for years and years, and it's also a way to set ourselves apart from the competition. The other option is to not include the fan moisture guard. If your company decides to do that, lower your overall price for a new system slightly, and then give the option to the homeowner to purchase an additional 5-year warranty by putting a fan moisture guard on the system. Either way is fine. Everyone has their own preference on how they want to approach it. In my experience, I really enjoy the fact that I'm different from the competition and that I include the fan moisture guard. I increase my starting price on a new system, and I can give that peace of mind and that 10-year warranty to cover everything, right? So parts, labor, and radon levels below 4. Last but not least on the depressurization presentation is a section just to explain briefly that we offer service and annual maintenance on the system. So we don't want to talk a lot about this unless the customer has questions and needs us to explain more. But really what this is about is teeing it up for your office for when they call to schedule an annual maintenance. The customer is already aware that that's an option. Okay, so it's an additional service provided once a year where we go out and check on the system. We look to make sure that we can ensure the performance and efficiency. We look for any new cracks because homes settle and change, any openings where radon gas can come in. And then this is a great way to prolong the life of the system. So yes, we do a 10-year warranty, but a lot of our customers want to have the system work for years beyond that. And one way to ensure that performance is by doing an annual service call. And we have a bunch of programs that we call the Shield Plan, and different packages customers can choose from that are really set up like a monthly recurring fee that they could choose to pay. And then an annual maintenance is included if they sign up for one of those monthly packages. Otherwise, if they just want a simple annual maintenance once a year, they can directly pay for that without doing the Shield Plan. So we want to let them know that we're a little bit bigger than just installing a system and leaving. We want to make sure it's working for years to come as well.